Welcome! My name is Elena Kundro. I am the host of the Vitality Hub podcast, a space to embrace all parts of yourself, align with your truth, and find new, graceful ways to navigate life's challenges. Over the past 12 years, I've been on my own healing journey of integrating my traumatic childhood and turning my illnesses into wellness. Along the way, I've earned a degree in health sciences, trained in various coaching and therapeutic modalities. And since 2018, I've been blessed to be helping clients invite more vitality into all areas of their lives. Hence the name of the show, Vitality Hub. So my goal with this podcast is to introduce you to tools that can help you create a life that you truly love. Thanks for tuning in, and let the show begin. Welcome back to the show. Today we have an episode full of topics about attachment, nervous system, healing all parts of yourself through attachment theory, somatic attachment healing, and all that encompasses these topics. And I have my beautiful friend here, Milena, that I've had the gift of knowing for 2 years now, and I'm always surprised how she navigates her own life and how she really embodies all the tools that she's going to share in this episode. And this was a long wait somehow. It took us a while to get together to film this podcast, but yeah.
Today we are here.
We are here. So let's start by maybe sharing what is it that you do? Because you work with couples and do somatic attachment healing. Yeah, a bit of an intro.
Yes. So first, thank you for having me here. Such a pleasure.
Course.
Finally, we can come together and share about all those things that I'm passionate about. Somatic attachment healing. So it combines many different aspects. So there is the healing part that for me is about restoring our capacity, because sometimes people think they are broken, think there's something wrong with me. I'm just telling them your nervous system is working really well at keeping you safe and protected with the resources it has.
Yes, thank you. That's a big one, because so many times people say, I'm broken, I have this issue, this, but no, everything is serving you and is meant to serve you. And yes, at some point it was the best strategy, but maybe now it's not working.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the healing part. And then there's the somatic, which is about using the wisdom of our body. Our body has so much wisdom and capacity, but we tend to disconnect from it. We go into our mind, we don't listen anymore. So it's about coming back to the body, the wisdom of the body and the nervous system. And then the last part is the attachment. And so it's all about, the way we relate to other people. So moving from the insecure attachment that we hear everywhere now about the anxious, avoidant, disorganized, to a more secure way of relating. Because at the end, that's what we want. We want just to love and be loved fully, and not having always like this feeling of I need to chase love, control love, or avoid or protect myself from love. We just want to embrace love and be in peace with that.
Yes, because relationships are such a big part of our lives, and for me, I always try to remind myself what does really matter in life. And I always find this one answer: relationships. How the quality of my relationships, because if I have flourishing, connected, supportive relationships, I feel safe, I feel like I can create, I can do my things. And that's why so many successful people, actually I find they're sharing that behind their success is their supportive spouse, is their supportive family, because from that they can then achieve great things.
Yeah. And the relationship to ourselves as well.
Yes.
Part of it.
That's the first one. And that's why I love internal family systems so much. And we talked about a bit today how it differs from the attachment theory, that is actually basically the attachment with ourselves, with all parts of ourselves. So you have that internal attachment that you can heal with healing all parts of yourself, having your core self as that healing modality. And then you have that attachment theory where it's mostly about connections with others and how to heal that in a therapeutic way with a therapist, and then with your relationships, which I assume you mostly work with couples to help them find that healing bond
Yeah. So I work both with like couples together, and I love that but we also need to work individually. So sometimes I work just with people individually, but the best is like when couples come together, we work with them individually, and then they come together. And sometimes we start the journey together, and like, wow, the transformation when I see them before together, and like there's those tension, those protection, those defense mechanism. We worked individually, and then we come back together, and then suddenly they're so at ease, because finally their nervous system do not detect each other as a threat anymore. They're just like, oh, I can be there, I feel safe, I can open, can relax and enjoy what we have. That is beautiful. Because I hear sometimes clients telling me 80% of the time in my relationship I'm in anxiety mode.
Wow.
And other people who are been also in a long relationship, but they feel like there's still something holding me back. And yeah, even people who have been together for years.
Yeah, I imagine how draining that is on your system. Like if you always have that on top of all the work and career and money issues and everything was happening in the world, you also have that anxious things happening at home. Yeah. So I love that. And I really also enjoyed that you started pointing out that coming back to the body's wisdom. And me as a very mind-oriented, very intellectual, like analytical person, I like structures, I like putting things in boxes, and spent majority of my life trying to rationalize my way out of feelings. In childhood, oh, my mom is doing like this because she's like that, my dad was abusive because he grew up in a family like that, and just rationalizing things, why my wounds happened.
Yeah.
And that actually prevented me from healing them, because I wasn't feeling them through. And the body has the wisdom to heal itself. Yeah. And the body was before the mind, so kind of body knows. And for me it was a very hard thing to learn, and I'm still learning, of course.
We are always it's a learning journey that we are all on.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about your journey. What led you to start working in this field? I mean, I know, but for listeners, I think it's going to be very interesting to see the shift where you were before. Because for me, it's always striking to hear how you were before in your relationships and how you are now. Because now it's like, whoa, okay,
Yeah. So for me, it all started like. My parents didn't plan to have me. They got me very young. My mom was just 16 when she got pregnant of me. My dad was just 2 years older, and so they were not ready to be parents. They didn't plan it. I don't say anymore it's an accident, because that changed the whole thing. I was never an accident. They just didn't know I was coming. They didn't plan it, but I'm not an accident. I was always meant to come here. Even they didn't know. So that's already changed a lot. But so as I came, they were not ready, and they could not show up as parents for me. And I've been going through a lot of struggle, like trying to keep their attention, like why they're not there for me, why they're not taking care of me, what is wrong with me. And so many different strategies that my nervous system has developed, because our nervous system, again, is so smart, developing different strategy. So for me, first was like being very like forward and like trying to get the attention by asking thousands of questions, later on by being more provocative, being like rebel, and so all kind of strategy to keep their attention. But then when I saw it's not working, they not really want to have this responsibility. So also what happened is that they gave the custody away, so I was raised by my grandparents.
How old were you when that happened?
So when I was born, I was living actually with my grandparents already, and my mom, because she was just 17. My dad was living with his parents. And then, for 7 years, we lived there together with my aunt as well, my mom's sister. And then my parents decided to move in together for just 3 years. Then they separated. So that's when nobody wanted to take me. And so luckily my grandparents took me. And so I got a lot of love there. So I was really lucky to still feel that, okay, I'm loved. But at the same time, there's like, I want the love of my parents. And so then I went more to the other strategy of like, so first it was more the anxious, like trying to keep the connection. And then it's not working. So it went more to the avoidant of like, fuck you. I
don't need you.
Yeah, I don't need you. I'm good by myself. And so then it's going more into this avoidance. So yes, and then I was very miserable, like, because like I pretended like I didn't care, but deep inside I wanted to have my parents. Like I wanted to have a nice relationship with them. So it's only like in my, like from my 20, when I was, maybe around 27, that I was like, okay, you know what? I have just one set of parents. I could not choose them, but like, let me try to do something with them. And that's when I started like being curious about them, wanting to understand how do they feel, what's going on, why are they behaving this way, that they start feeling more accepted. I didn't have any expectation anymore. I just wanted to understand them, to accept them as they are and take whatever they can give me. And that's when they suddenly, starting opening. And then I was like, who are those people? Now suddenly my mom, who was cold, distant, didn't care, suddenly she's like sensitive, she's like caring, she wants to be there for me. And then same with my dad. So it took me so long to work on the relationship with my parents, and then I implemented all that also in my romantic relationship, but it was like a lot of struggle navigating through all that, still with a bit of this avoidant of like, I'm doing everything on my own, I don't need any support.
We actually have that a bit in our relationship too.
So no support. And now where I am today, I have amazing relationship with my parents. My dad came like 3 times already to visit me in Bali. We spent 1 month together. It's amazing. My mom, she calls me every week. We are very close, very connected. And also in my romantic relationship, it's like, wow. And I was like, this is too good, to keep it for myself. I want to share that for others. But before I didn't have those tools. Now I learn all those tools that I keep using and that I can share now.
And that's mostly the tools for regulating your nervous system and healing your own attachment, to understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Because when I work with clients through internal family system, actually it was quite surprising for me, but a lot of them come for relationship issues. And I'm like, should I become like relationship coach or something, because a lot of things stem from the relationships, and all the triggers are mostly from relationships, because when you're living by yourself, you feel enlightened. Like nothing triggers me, I'm all good, like nobody is triggering me, and if something is wrong, then it's my own fault, so I kind of deal with that. But when somebody else comes in life, and somebody who's close, then all kind of buttons get pushed and
everything gets revealed.
So relationships are really great, I would say one of the most powerful tools for growth, for self-development, if you are looking at them as such. And at the same time, now that I've said it, I thought about people who are staying longer in relationships than they should, and it's toxic and it's not good. So it's also about learning, where are the boundaries of where do I want to grow with this person, and where I need to set the boundary. It just felt right to say that.
Because sometimes, and that's more people also with the anxious attachment style, they feel like, I need someone to feel safe, like I cannot do it by my own, I need you. And so sometimes that takes over, that need, like they only feel safe when there is someone there close to them and who can meet their needs, because they don't feel they can meet their needs on their own.
Even if they're not a good partner, they're still gonna take less than they deserve to not be alone.
And so I figured out afterwards that everything I was interested in, that was so connected. So actually the insecure attachment that we develop is actually just a result of a lack of co-regulation when we are a child. Because if we think about it, when we are born, when we are a child, we don't have this capacity to self-regulate. We really depend on our caregivers. But if they cannot meet us there in our physical, emotional needs in a consistent way, then that's where their nervous system is going to develop those strategies. And actually the different attachment style is just like based on which strategy our nervous system has developed. So maybe we can go through them just like...
we can actually do that, because
so
for me it's like, obvious, more, but I remember myself, like even a year and a half ago, I was like, what's dorsal vagal, what's ventral vagal, what's all this disordered attachment and all, like, is it really true? But when I first actually heard about the attachment theory, I was like, yeah, maybe, but it doesn't make any sense. But when I actually went deeper and started seeing how does that actually apply in my life, where am I feeling that? Because I thought, I don't have those issues, I'm good. Because I had a lot of that avoidant, like I'm good with myself,
Yeah.
like I don't need you, like I'm good, you know. I wasn't seeking for love,
Yeah.
so it wasn't, and I wasn't in relationships which were toxic. So I always thought that I don't have issues in that. But when I started digging deeper, I started noticing those patterns when my partner leaves longer and I feel the need to withdraw because I feel unsafe or left. Like he's not leaving me, but I still feel something is triggering, and that's when I started noticing
But there's
all
this
these
protection, actually.
all these protections, and that's why coming back to the internal family systems lens, it's very similar from the, actually it was very much inspired by the attachment theory. Dick Schwartz, who developed the internal family systems, was a big he says that a big component was actually attachment theory, and basically he was looking at internal family systems as inner attachment, internal attachment to yourself. But then one thing that he noticed wasn't, that he didn't find fit from the attachment theory, is that in that theory it says that you have to have someone to co-regulate, but actually what Dick Schwartz is saying, that you can find your center to co-regulate with yourself, your self, you know.
Yeah, you're co-regulating yourself with the other parts, actually.
Yeah,
it's your internal co-regulation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that you don't always, like, because then so many people would be destined to never have a healthy attachment style and healthy nervous system regulation if they grew up in a chaotic household like me. My mom was depressed, my dad wasn't present, like he was either abusive or wasn't present, so like how am I then regulating? And that was all because of that center. So anyone who has been through very difficult childhoods, difficult experiences, there is hope. You can still get that regulation by connecting to your center. It's not like you're doomed for life if you didn't have that. So then you can go through what do you want to start with, the nervous system or the attachment styles?
Maybe let's go through the different attachment style and how actually the strategies are related to the nervous system.
Okay, perfect, lovely.
So as a child, again, if we don't have this capacity to self-regulate, we depend on the caregiver, but depending on how they're showing up. So if my caregivers, my parents, are not consistently there for me, but I feel there's still a possibility. And again, all this happen at a subconscious level. It's not like, okay, let me think, what can I do, what strategy? No, it's all our nervous system feels that, okay, because our nervous system scan the other people's nervous system. I feel there's still a possibility to get their attention, to get them close to me. So we're gonna develop more this anxious attachment style because it's this movement forward. And the strategy is either the fight, right, of the nervous system, right? We know the fight one in the sympathetic state. So there's a lot of this energy, mobilizing energy to keep the person close. And how does it look like fight? Doesn't mean that we fight, but it can mean as a child we're making a tantrum, like to make a scene to get their attention, or like I was asking 1,000th question, but why? That was my only way, like to try to keep the connection. Or maybe later on it develops also a bit like manipulating, controlling, grasping, right? So it's all this movement forward, keeping the person close. Or there is phoning. That's another one that for people with anxious attachment style that use, because in phoning there's also this movement forward. What the other person wants me to do, I'm gonna do everything they want me to do, saying yes to everything. But inside there is this shutdown. So here we mix two states of the nervous system. The sympathetic, there's a lot of agitation, like, what do you want me? Like, what can I do? I need to do more, I need to prove more. But inside is the shutdown. That's the dorsal vagal. Like, I'm suppressing my needs, my feelings, because I don't give space to that, and I just focus on the other person. Because we learn that, okay, maybe our parents are maybe they're stressed, they're anxious, they're angry a lot of time. So if they're not regulated, I cannot be regulated. Yeah. So by making them happy, so that they're not anxious, stressed, angry,
then you'll
whatever.
Be safe.
Yeah, they're regulated, and then I can be regulated. So we regulate through the other one by making them regulated. So that's like the anxious. But then we can have the other one. So how do we develop this avoidant attachment style? Because, okay, the nervous system feels there's no way I can get safety and connection from my parents, because either they are just emotionally unavailable, doesn't mean that they are bad parents, but they don't give space for feelings. There's no space for that.
Yeah.
Or it can go to neglectful, abusive, right? Dangerous, right? So it's like I cannot be in the distress and the pain of not having my needs met. So what we do? Shut down my needs, shut down my feelings. We isolate as a protection. So like I don't have any needs. Everything is okay, so we don't feel the pain.
Yeah.
And later on,
And then parents say, "Oh, this child is so
quiet.
like it's so quiet.
Yeah.
He's so good. It's so easy child, you know, because the child that's in the fight mode then throwing up tantrums, and then parents are like, "Oh, why is it such a difficult child?" Well, it's just crying for attention in various ways, and I really find it interesting how you combine the dorsal, dorsal ventral, dorsal state. Yeah. That's how you call it, right?
Dorsal vagus.
Dorsal vagal state with the activated and the the shutdown.
Yeah.
That it can be both together.
Yeah.
Because actually previously I always thought that it's either you're in the fight or flight, you're either in the regulated or you're in the shutdown.
Yeah.
But actually you can be in both of them
together.
together.
Well, that's the fawning, and there's another one that's the freeze. So freeze, it's like when there's all this agitation, I need to do, but it's like, oh, it's so much, and then we get stuck and we can't speak, we can't move. So if we think of reptile, because that's come from the dorsal vagus, like reptile have that, it's like there is a danger, I'm gonna make myself small and quiet until danger pass.
But I'll pretend that I'm dead so that other animals wouldn't want to eat me, because animals don't eat dead animals. So so
that's the freeze, but there's still this all agitation. So that's people who have developed disorganized attachment style use mostly this strategy of freeze, because they grew up in an environment where there was such ambivalence. So it's like sometimes my parents are a source of love and comfort.
Unpredictability.
Yeah, but sometimes they're a source of chaos and maybe even danger. So maybe parents who are maybe alcoholic. So sometimes when they're good, they're caring, loving, but sometimes they're in a bad phase and then they're like dangerous, pushing the child away. And so it's like this moment, like, I need it and I want it. No, but it's too much, it's overwhelming. Oh no, it's dangerous. And then I can't speak, I can't move. So that's the freeze. Yeah. It's just different strategy the nervous system developed. Again, so smart. The nervous system is working very well. It's just using what resource it has.
Yes, and then we take that and then wonder why our relationships are failing. So now, do you want to go over the attachment styles and how that looks in real life? How those nervous system learned behaviors are then, in real examples? How would you apply that? Because I feel like it's quite hard to, just from the theory, understand how's that playing out in my life.
Yeah, so that's what we develop as a child, and then we usually carry on that, continue using mostly that strategy, because that's what we have reinforced, that's what we are used to, what is familiar and keeping us safe and protected. So someone with the anxious attachment style later on will keep using this, as I mentioned before. It's maybe like controlling, like manipulating the partner so that I have my needs met. Right? You have to behave this way, you have to do that so that I can have my needs met. And it's about this keeping the person close. So I always need them to be close to me. I want to know everything about you. I want to share everything about you so that I can feel safe.
I'm so in love with you.
Yeah, no boundaries. Like, let's share everything and let's keep it so close.
And it's interesting that people who have this anxious attachment style usually attract people with avoidant, right? And then it's a total disaster.
Yeah, because there's like completely different needs and behavior and strategy. So on the other side, the avoidant, for them, it's like, what was their strategy? Okay, shutting down and isolating. Like, I'm just good by myself. I don't need anyone. So they don't really feel comfortable sharing about their feelings. They don't want to open too much. They need some space. Like, we cannot always be close to each other. Avoiding discussion. Like, the anxious want to fix everything now, talk about everything now. The avoidant is like, I need some space, I don't want to go into the discussion, etc. But for me, yes, they attract each other. And the reason why they attract each other is because there's so much healing opportunity there. And if we have that awareness, if we have the tools, then they can really help each other, because through that love that gives them this resource that, okay, it's worth it, I want to do it. So for the anxious attachment, what they want is to learn self-regulation. So when the person with the avoidant attachment that asks for more space, it's an invitation for the anxious. It's like, okay, normally I always want my partner to help me, support me, fulfill all my needs. When they ask for space, can I see this as an invitation? Take space and be with myself so that I can start doing this self-regulation. How can I show up for myself? What is it that I need? How can I give this to myself? The other way around, person with more avoidant attachments, that they always want space. When the other person is asking for more closeness, more intimacy, to open more, can they see that as an invitation? Okay, how can I make a step forward, open a little bit more, share a little bit more, allow myself to receive the support from someone else. I don't have to do it all on my own. So they can bring each other some invitation and inspiration.
I love that. I totally love that. And I also want to say that your mic is a bit, I will just fix it for you a little bit. Because then I think the sound is very important for the podcast. And I was like, oh, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to take care of this. And this.
Are you good?
Yeah, I think now it's going to be better because your hair won't be falling over it.
Okay.
I really love what you just said about how it can be an invitation to find healing for both of them. And for the anxious one, I feel like noticing myself in it sometimes, it was very important for me, my own healing journey with my partner, to know that he still loves me, he's still there for me, he just needs some time, I need to just give him space and I can just do my own thing. Whereas previously it was like, oh no, you don't love me, okay, I'm shutting down, that's it, maybe we're not right for each other, you know, all these kind of things, like drama. And then the partner doesn't feel safe with you because they can't express their feelings, they can't take the space if they need it. And my partner is now telling that he feels very safe with me because he has that space, that he knows that I'll be fine, that if he needs space he can take that, and there will be no drama.
And that's super important, because very often where there's this argument and we are being triggered, so my nervous system detects a threat, so I'm going to activate my strategy, and we try to express things, to talk through things, but in that moment nothing will work, we can't hear each other. So when that happens, when you notice you're triggered, the priority, finding regulation. And so for the anxious, it's like, can I cultivate more this self-regulation? How can I myself bring myself to regulation? And for the avoidant, how can I cultivate more the core regulation as well?
To go into, to learn not to shut down and
just push away. So maybe when
up.
I work with couples, like we find, okay, how can we find something that works for both when we go step by step, one step closer to each other, but still honoring what feels safe at that point. So for example, the avoidant attachment style would say, hey, I just realized now I really need to take some space to be by myself. I will take some fresh air, go for a walk for 30 minutes. I will come back.
I still love you. And
I still love you. Or if the anxious attachment person can do a step forward, it would be like, I see that you need space, but I still in that moment, like I need the closeness. So can you just stay with me? But I'll give you space by just being quiet and just being by myself, but I feel your presence, you're not going away. But the anxious will not ask questions and try to fix everything, so there will still be space. So that's how we can like slowly start to come together and feel together.
I like the slowly part, because if you over push that, then your nervous system will become even more protective and even more agile. So
because that's the natural rhythm of the nervous system, is this expansion. So when I feel safe, I can open, connect, be curious, go out in the world, like trust others. But if we go out of our edge and we go too much, we go back, contraction, and then threats, and then back into the shutdown or back into the anxiety. But if you're like, okay, how much can I open? Okay, that's my edge for today. Now I need to resource something that can help me feel good.
That requires a lot of self-awareness.
Yes, finding the edge. Okay, that's my edge. Now I need to resource. Finding that out, and then the other thing is the tool of how do I resource? How do I regulate? Because I know there's so many things going on, regulation tools, and then people try it and it's like, it's not working for me.
Yeah, we
Why?
can definitely go on that. I just want to also touch the disorganized attachment style.
Oh, yeah.
And how does that, because I feel it's even more complex.
Yes, that's definitely.
And then we can go into the actually practical tools. In every episode, I'm trying to focus on practicality. How can I invite real tools that people, listeners, could apply right away? It's like, so we can definitely...
Yeah, let's not forget the disorganized attachment style, which actually is a smaller percentage, but still exists, and it's very, very challenging.
Yeah.
Because avoidant attachment style people, I don't like to call avoidant and anxious, because also that's what I want to say, like, you're not avoidant, you're not anxious, this is just a strategy of your nervous system. It doesn't define who you are.
A part of you.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is not you, it's a part
but
of you.
sometimes like to just shorten
sometimes I really like that analogy in the Inside Out movie. Have you seen the second part? No, not yet?
No.
Have you seen the first one?
No, but I heard about it.
Oh my God, you have to. It's my favorite movie of all times, for educational purposes as well. And recently we watched the second part. Don't want to give much spoiler alert, but basically inside of our head there are many characters that live. One is anger, one is joy, fear, sadness, and sometimes when situations are triggering, that one part can overtake the whole control system in our brain and override it. And it seems then that we are that part, that fear, that anxiousness, because it's just controlling everything and other parts don't have the say into it. And actually learning how to find your center, that regulation within, either that's through somatic or internal family systems or other tools that we will explore today, it's basically how to learn how to take care of all those parts, that anxious part, that it would not take over, to notice when it's about to be overridden. So that's why I really like, sometimes it feels like we are blended with that part to unblend and to see that these are just parts of you.
Yeah, it's not the essence of who you are. It's just, So coming to the disorganized. So for people who have a more avoidant attachment style, at least they can find some peace when they're by themselves, right? That's what you mentioned, like, oh, when I'm by myself, everything is good, and then there's no challenge. People with a anxious attachment style, when they're close to someone, they feel their protection, they then find the safety. But people who have developed a disorganized attachment style, it's very challenging, because in no cases they find some peace and safety. Because when I'm by myself, it feels like, no, but I need someone. I cannot be by myself. Like, I'm not whole and complete by myself, and I need someone to love me. But when I have it, it's like, this is overwhelming, this is too much, I cannot deal with it, and I push away. So there's always this, I need it, but it's too much. And so there's no sense of safety and peace in none of them.
Okay. And I also, hearing you say that, I realized there are various spectrums of that.
Yeah.
Like you can have a tiny bit of that, because that's why when I first got introduced to attachment styles, I couldn't identify myself in it, because I wasn't like this or this or this, and it didn't show up very drastically. But like what I said, when I started looking deeper, there were such subtle aspects of it. So I feel like that's also important to say. You don't have to fall into one of those three categories to find value in somatic and attachment style nervous system healing. Yeah,
because again, we are not one category. It's strategies of our nervous system, so it's also we can use different one, and also it will change on the dynamic of the relationship. Who do I have in front of me? If I have someone who's like putting much more distance and is being very unavailable, maybe I'm gonna use this strategy more of the fight and become more anxious attachment. But if the opposite is someone is like wanting too much from me and it's too much pressure, then maybe I'm gonna push away. So it's changed the dynamic.
Yeah, I actually even now notice with my partner, not in a bad way, but if somebody is super affectionate and like, crawling on top of each other, then the other one is more like, not like distant, but not as active. Yeah. There's always one of us that's more affectionate, more wanting the other kind of dynamic, which is so interesting always to find. Yeah. Have you found that in your life or?
Yeah, so I in my past I've been much more avoidant, and then working on secure. And I found like I found that peace in the secure, but with my partner now is like sometimes he would be more and more into like, not at the beginning, at least now it's open more and more, but at the beginning he will not share much about him, about what's going on. And then I noticed my tendency to like, before where I would also create that distance, now I was like willing to and needing to know more. But what's going on? Tell me more, like share more, I need to know. And so this was coming up, yeah. But I liked also what you say of how first is about the intensity, but also the different areas. So in some areas might be like we have that safety, but all the area less. So it affects all areas in the relationship. How do we deal with emotion? So someone with more anxious attachment, the emotion are like overwhelming. We are merging with the emotion. This is all of who we are. Avoidant attachment style, there's more like, no, I'm not angry, I'm not sad, everything is okay. So it affects the emotion, affects how we deal with support. Someone with more avoidant, like I don't need anyone, building this hyper independence, right? Of like, I do everything on my own, I don't ask for anything. Someone with the more anxious attachment, like, no, if I don't have help and support, I cannot do it. So it affects the emotion, the support, how we deal with problems, how we deal with conflicts, how we deal with space, intimacy, like, do I need that closeness or do I need more space? Am I very touchy or like not so much? So it really covers all areas of the relationship.
Now that you said it, I just looked back on myself because now my partner is leaving in a few days for 2 months. And I had that moment of like, oh no, how can I live without you? Like, how will I do some stuff? Like, no, don't leave me. And then at some point I got this click of like, okay, you know what? I'm a strong, independent woman. I can take care of myself. So also noticing how that is still present in my life, and noticing those shifts are very interesting. And also communicating with your partner, we found it very valuable to say like, now I feel more distant and I can do my own thing. Actually, now I don't even need to communicate. We just sense it. But just maybe why I'm bringing this up to talk about how is the ideal secure attachment.
Yeah, that also just came to me. Like maybe we have to explain how does that look like.
Yeah.
So in a relationship where there's more secure, I don't like to say attachment because sometimes also attachment, another significance of more the Buddhist of like attachment. So I would say more a secure way of relating.
Okay.
How does that look like? It doesn't mean that there's no conflict, that there's no arguments, that there's no problems. It just means that, okay, that even if there's something coming up, I can be with that. And why is that? Because we are not anymore in the sympathetic nervous state or the shutdown or the freeze or the phoning. We are in what we call the ventral vagal state. This is where I find safety and connection. So something comes up, emotion, some problem, some challenge, I can be with that. I don't need to like go to fight, flight, freeze. No, I can be present with that. Okay.
You can
hold space for that. Be with that. Bringing curiosity to that. Okay, and what's about your perspective? How do you feel about that? Okay, I see it like that. That's how I feel. That's what I need. So being present with that. So it helps us to stay connected. We don't need to run away. We don't need to shut down. We can stay connected in those moments. We can trust ourselves and the others. We can give ourselves the support we need, but also ask for the support. So there is this mutuality and presence.
Perfect. What I'm hearing from you, because recently, I am still continuing to study internal family systems, and I'm so fascinated. For me, this is the most powerful modality I found for my own healing, because it's so focused on that, finding your center. And what I'm hearing from you is that the healing, the healthy relationship, relating, is when you are able to stay in your core, in your center, connected to your essence, to your soul. There's so many different ways to put it, and various religions and different modalities phrase it in different way. There's no right or wrong. And you can be unblended from those feelings. And in Buddhism, they always talk about observing. Become the observer. And basically the observer is your center, your essence. And in the healthy relating prism, it's not being in your attachment style triggers and seeing like, okay, now I'm feeling that I have this need to relate, to figure it out, and I can notice that my partner wants to withdraw, and I can be in my center and I can notice that, and that hold space for both of them and communicate with my partner to have that space. And if one of the partners can have that, then the other one usually also can feel safe and seen, because there's no like, oh, why are you doing like this? Because then they feel attacked. They want to avoid. It's like basically talking with your own parts. If you're attacking your inner critic, it will only get bigger. But if you come from that state of alignment and presence and that compassion, non-judgment, curiosity, I think it's a big one, the 8 C's of your core self, then that inner critic will tell you, you know, I'm afraid that if I stop criticizing you, then you will never achieve anything. And if you never achieve anything, you will be miserable and nobody will love you. And then you can see how that's so protective of you, and that dissipates. So I love that you mentioned that. Lovely. And so now, do you want to go more into these states, or you want to move into the tools?
Maybe we can move into the tools. So I think now we have kind of an understanding of maybe the different strategies.
There's something not clear, you can always comment or message us directly, or even put in your stories and put the question. I think we will see.
Happy to answer.
Yeah. Whenever I do lectures and my audience starts asking me a lot of questions, and then at some point they're saying sorry for asking so many questions, I'm like, look, this is the best thing I can have in my lecture, to have questions, to have a live audience that I can interact with, and
you question with some others. So go ahead, go for the question.
Okay.
And because we can talk about hours with all of this.
I love these topics.
So about the tools. So again, I was saying before, there's so many tools available there, and then maybe people try some and it's like, it's not working for me. So I just want to go to that a little bit, because what is important is to recognize where we are at. So now we have a bit more understanding. Okay, with the anxious attachment side, there is this like surcharge of energy, because how is the nervous system protecting us? By mobilizing energy within a lot of energy to fight or to flight, right? Or phoning with like the whole energies on the other person. So if we want to meditate and sit still and quiet, that's not gonna work, because our nervous system is mobilizing energy. We need to move. So if I try to stay still and quiet, it's like, no, this is not safe. We need to move. So we cannot go from all this agitation to finding quiet and stillness.
Because a lot of times people think regulating means about coming into stillness, or just relaxation, but it's not about that. It's about first recognizing where you are at, and then applying the right strategy.
Exactly.
But one more thing that you mentioned before is that anxious attachment, and that's mostly the fight or flight that's activated, right? Sympathetic response. But the phoning is both of them, and that's also the anxious, like the phoning response is also the anxious attachment, right? Where you want to please the other.
Yes, because there's mostly this movement towards. But inside there's the shutdown with my own needs and my own feelings.
Yeah, so you shut down your own so you could take care of the other person.
Yeah.
I find that a lot with women specifically, trying to please the partners, and that's what they learned from the mothers. But okay, we cannot go. Let's not go there. But just wanted to mention that it's not only the fight or flight is the in the anxious, but also the phoning response.
But so when we have all this energy in our body, we cannot come to mobilization, because that doesn't feel safe. So we want to gradually get out of that state by releasing that energy. So if we have we are in this anxiety mode, there's all this thoughts, this agitation in the chest, busyness in the arms, shaking in the legs.
That's what you should do, actually.
Then
that's what
we shake it out.
Yeah.
Exactly. Again, the body knows. Animals do it naturally. We forgot, because we're like, no, I have to stay strong and
Let's meditate.
Yeah.
And my mind's like, what's happening?
So we shake it out.
Shaking
out, not in a way that we activate more energy, but just like releasing, shaking it out.
And with intention as well, like I'm shaking and I'm releasing.
Yeah, releasing
energy.
All that surcharge of energy, and maybe even like letting sounds, because there's all those thoughts going on. So it's just like, blah, 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 releasing all this agitation there.
You don't have to say anything.
Exactly.
I do that actually quite regularly, almost every morning after the shower. I'm just like, because there's always something that I haven't noticed that still gathered, and I'm just like doing a regular practice of, okay, I'm releasing everything that's not serving me, everything that I don't have to keep in my system, and just like whoosh, shook, 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 after the shower, like we're imagining how the shower is cleansing everything, and that's a regular practice, so you don't have to go to the extreme of where you're so dysregulated, because if I don't do that, I come to that state even after having all these years of working on myself. So it's about the noticing when it's coming up. Okay, so first it's like the shaking and discharging,
and then slowly, gradually we can maybe like slow down the movement. Maybe we take a deep inhale, taking all that energy, and then folding forward and letting go, folding forward, and then maybe we can start from standing to going back to sitting. Maybe there's still a little bit of movement. My body still has some energy that I want to move. And then gradually we find stillness. And then we start feeling more the quiet inside. But not because we forced it, but because it's naturally shifted to that.
Yeah, because after
and then we can anchor more in that ventral vagus state by, okay, what helped me to stay in that? Maybe I just noticed like, my sit bones on the sofa, the comfort of the pillow, the support. Maybe I noticed something around that is nice and pleasant. So we can anchor ourselves in that with something pleasant, something that restores us. The other way around, if we're in this shutdown, we are disconnected from our body, right? Because there's so much going on there that I disconnected. I don't want to feel my needs, my feelings, etc.
That's when you shut down, you want to get space from your partner.
Don't want to connect too much with others. So we cannot go from that to like, okay, now I'm going to go to a party and start talking to everyone and smiling at everyone and hugging everyone. So how do we do from the shutdown? Maybe we start just imagining a movement. We don't even have to do it, but just imagine. What would be a movement that could still feel safe?
And dorsal vagal is basically when, because it's for some people maybe it'd be new, how does that appear in the body? How do you notice? Because fight or flight is like anxiousness, like nervousness, I don't know where to put myself, I feel so restless, so it's kind of easy to notice. And that sometimes I feel the dorsal state can be mixed with tiredness, that maybe I just need to rest, and it's very lethargic, and it's just like I don't want to do anything, and just scroll and numb myself, or go eat something to numb myself and stuff myself to feel so stuffed that I can't even move. How else is it appearing?
So the shutdown is the immobilization in fear. So it's like no movement, not much, but also there's this disconnection from the body. So that's why it's much harder to recognize, because in the shutdown we are disconnected from the body, so we don't feel much. As you say, there's this numbness, but maybe there's a little bit of heaviness. And so actually the somatic approach is about bringing the awareness to the body sensation, and that's where we learn. And so it's very interesting, because I have people who are no experience with that. They don't even do yoga. They don't connect to the body. But then in that space, they can bring curiosity. And then they notice, like the last session I had with one client who had this shutdown strategy because he doesn't feel like accepted and like he belongs. So he needs to make himself small and surprised. So there was, like, for example, a lot of saliva that he needs to swallow, because it shows it's not safe to speak. So swallowing. And then there was
like swallowing, you mean your feelings,
swallowing everything, not speaking anything, just swallowing everything. And then there was restriction in the nose, like it's not safe to take up space, so everything is restricted here in the throat. There is restriction. And then he noticed like his fingertips and his toes wanted to curl up, because it's like, I need to make myself small, I cannot take too much space. But that's really when we bring the awareness. Usually, when people in shutdown, they will not notice. So it's like numbness, maybe some heaviness, and we're a lot in the mind and like distracted and not feeling. So it's much harder to notice, yeah.
Yeah, usually what my clients, how we work is notice how does that appear in your life, because it's easier to notice in that state not how you're feeling but what you're actually doing. Like, oh, I'm grabbing from my phone to scroll. What's happening? Like, that's how I catch myself.
More with the behavior.
Yeah, with the behavior.
Not the
like,
sensation in that case.
I'm grabbing for a chocolate because I think that will stimulate me, or matcha, coffee for some people. I'm looking for stimulation. I'm looking for numbness through scrolling. Some people do emotional eating. And for me, actually, emotional eating is a big teacher. Whenever I feel the need to eat something emotionally, to start snacking on a bunch of things, it's showing me that I'm dysregulated. I'm either in this anxious state where I'm like so dysregulated, I need some food to ground me, or I'm so numb that I just want to invite some pleasure in my life, to get some emotion, some feelings. Yeah. And that's why now I view my emotional eating as, that's a perfect tool to see which state I'm in. Yeah. So also for the listeners, I invite to explore, what do you do? What strategies you normally do to try, because we're naturally trying to regulate ourselves. It's just that those strategies don't work. After scrolling, I feel even more worse. And after eating, I feel even more agitated, or if I, drink coffee and stuff. So I'm curious, actually, before going into the right strategies for the dorsal vagal, to see, or maybe we can touch upon that later, how that actually appears in life if they don't have that somatic connection with their body. Where do you want to go first? To how it appears, or how to deal with the dorsal state, how to get out of it?
Yeah, we can say how it appears. So all the behaviors also, like wanting to isolate, for example, like putting distance, and getting a lot in the head, right? And trying to analyze things. So those are the kind of behaviors, like just avoiding, just feeling and being with what is present here. So disconnecting. And there's actually, the one that we know the most is like disconnecting by getting into the head. But here we live in Ubud, and there's actually another way to disconnect from the body is by getting into a lot of spirituality and what's happening up there and all the energy, but not being in the body. So that's another way we disconnect, by just relying that and being in that space and energy.
And is there something that you do when you are in that state?
Of the shutdown?
Yeah.
How it looks like, you mean?
Yeah, how, like, because for me it's either scrolling or going for some food, or
you mean me personally?
I'm just curious how it appears in your life.
So for me, how recently it showed up, this pattern again, was that when I wanted to actually protect myself from losing too much energy by doing too much and connecting with too many people, I actually put my body into this hypo-arousal by connecting less with people, doing less. Actually, my body said, we are in hibernation. And so I went into that shutdown, and then I was just becoming, lazy, not much motivation, don't want to do much. Really isolating. Yes. And so I was like, okay, that's not serving. Like, I need to reactivate some energy. So now maybe that's a good transition of how we come out of that.
Yeah.
So from that immobilization, isolating, not doing much, not connecting to the body. So just like starting imagining the movement. And then maybe bring a little bit of movement, what feels safe. But maybe too much space doesn't feel safe, so I don't take too much space yet. But just a little movement, right? And then maybe we can bring a bit more stretch, so it starts bringing a bit more of energy. And then maybe we can start connecting, because in the shutdown we don't want to connect with ourselves, things around, with other people. So then slowly, as we bring a little bit more movement, we can start connecting with the senses. So feeling the texture of what I'm sitting on, connecting to what I see around, what I hear. And then, maybe connecting to the breath. I can feel my breath. Because when we are in the shutdown, the breath is like very shallow, like it's very flat.
Yeah.
So, maybe I notice now more the breath. I connect to my
Deeper,
breath deeper. And then maybe now I can start connecting more to people. So maybe it's going to be just a text, right? Before a call or before a meeting in person. So slowly like bringing back to connection.
I love that. And also now that I was listening to you, I imagine myself in that, dorsal state where I just don't want to do anything. All I want is just to, I don't know, lay on the couch and watch some TV. Well, I don't have TV, so I don't have that option. Just now it's not an option for me. But I imagine for a lot of people, the easiest thing, the less friction, is to just pick up the phone and start scrolling, because it's no friction. And to actually start moving and sensing, it's a lot of friction, because in that kind of state you really don't want to do that. And for me, in my life, I'm really always trying to see how can I bridge that gap between when I notice that I'm feeling this way and actually start doing the thing. And actually the start is the hardest. Always to start, shaking when I'm feeling anxious. I don't want to meet with that shakiness. I don't want to meet with all that I'm holding in my body. And I haven't found the way yet. For me, one way that I do is I put on music. I just put on the music to match what I want to do, and then it naturally starts moving me.
I guess it will be attuning. So not going into the reaction that takes us there and get us stuck there, but attuning to the part. So first, like, now we have more understanding. Okay, that's just strategy that our nervous system has developed to keep us safe. So starting bringing compassion, like, okay, I notice now this thing is happening. This is just my nervous system wanting to protect me. Can I bring some compassion to it? Okay, I see you. I hear you. You want to ask 100 questions. You want to text the person, call the person 100 times. You want to fix everything, or you want to just like shut down and make yourself small and do nothing. So just like bringing compassion, and I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and then like bringing that attunement of what would feel safe. A small step. So not pushing, not forcing. So we are not in the reaction anymore, that is unconscious. We are really attuning with that part, and what will feel safe. What do you want to do? And so that's what we do in the session, and the somatic is about attuning to it, being present with it. Okay, what is it that it wants to do? And consciously we allow that. It's like, it wants to move. Okay, so we don't force ourselves to shake. It's just we listen to it. What do you want? You want to move? Okay. Let's move. So it comes naturally by attuning to it. What do you want to do? Make yourself small a little bit. So, okay, let's come into this pose there. Okay, from there, what will feel safe? Can you do? A little bit. And so by attuning to it, we can get out of there. Not by, okay, I need to apply this tool now. I need to do that and force it and push it.
Thank you for saying that. I think compassion is something that is the missing link to not... go straight, because my instant thought is like, I want to get out of this as soon as possible. I don't want to stay there. Boom, 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 and I think that is overstepping sometimes. And the part of me that is feeling the anxiousness, it feels like I want to get rid of it without actually noticing it, once I start doing the practice, it feels really good. It feels sane. And that's why I know that the first step is hard, but once I started, it's always good. So I kind of like try to put myself into the start position as soon as possible. But I think I will try to put more attention now on the compassionate side, actually, to start the conversation, not like, oh, you're feeling like this? Okay, we need to do like shaking.
Yeah, but what do you need? How can we support you? Because it's about bringing resources and attuning to it. And because sometimes I notice in the session when, they notice like, oh, there's this contraction, this tension in the belly, for example. So we bring the presence to that. And I notice that the client, with their breath, they want to release it. That's resisting it. That's like saying, you don't belong here. I don't want you. Go away. And so how do we actually bring the healing is with the quality of presence. with that love and compassion, that when this part feels seen, heard, felt enough and safe enough, that energy that is trapped in the contraction can finally open, and it's naturally that it's going to be released. So but I see that sometimes with the breath they're like, no, that's already like we are trying to change anything. So can we just be with it, breathe with it, like I'm
not
here.
Not trying to change it.
Exactly. Not trying to change. I'm here with you. I'm breathing with you. What do you need? Not let's release this tension.
And I think that comes back to when we're growing up, if we're crying, parents sometimes try to soothe us very fast, like, oh, don't cry, everything's okay, yeah. What do you need? Let's go, let's do that, But it shows that it's not okay to feel sad. It's not okay to feel anger, and to show all of my system, all of my parts, that it's okay to feel that. Nothing wrong with that. Accepting all of myself to find that true wholeness, true humanity. And just holding space for all of that, not trying to change it. And it's revolutionary for our own systems and for relationships, for kids, for everyone. And I just feel it's one of the most important things that we can do. It's not about, raising our chakra, like opening our chakras or kundalini awakenings or all of that. Like, go do that, but I don't think that's going to change the world. I think what's going to change the world is if we learn to have the society where people can hold all ranges of emotions. Nobody feels isolated. Nobody feels like they should disappear, that they're not welcomed. And then when we have that inclusion, there's no more fighting. The polarization is gone, because now there's so much polarization, and I can see in the whole the world masts, in countries, different countries feel suppressed, and then they act out. They want attention, and they want to gain power. But actually what they want is acceptance and love and appreciation. And I know it's bizarre to talk about these, like, let's give appreciation to this country that is now doing all these wars and all of these horrible things, but that is what's happening.
And there's I don't know if people know about the Course in Miracle, but that's like my Bible. It's not a religion, but it's like my Bible. And there is this quote that say, every unloving behavior is a call for love. And so when we can see that the way people act, for me, there's nobody who is really bad. It's just like, that's the only strategy I have. That's the only way I find out to survive. And we can see through that it's just a call for love.
And that they're suffering, actually.
It doesn't excuse all those abusive behaviors and violent behavior, doesn't excuse it, but when we can see through that and start finding out actually what all people need is some love. Being understood. And then we can...
all you need is love.
Exactly. But it's about the emotion, coming back to that, is again this quality of presence. And if we look again at the different way, people with more anxious attachment style or avoidant, like the disorganized, going to be a mix of both always, so they can recognize themselves in either or. With the anxious, it's about, this is overwhelming, this is all of what I experience, is like, and they identify with the emotion. I am angry, I am upset, I am sad, and so they identify with it, so you cannot let go of something you identify, because this is who I am, and this is me, this is my experience, and we nourish it, and we go into the story, and it gets more and more, and it stays stuck there. People with more avoidant, they just like ignore it, right? Again, no, I'm not angry, I'm not sad. And the emotion have no space. So in this somatic work, it's about bringing the presence. Okay, I'm in this big container, and I'm resourced, I'm grounded, and I can allow this emotion. Okay, there is some sadness coming out, there's some anger. How does it feel like? Oh, there's this tingling, or there is this like heaviness. Okay, can we give space to that? Can we be present with that? And then it allows it to move, because emotion is energy in motion. So give it space by allowing it. And so then it's just like we are not merging with it. Okay, it's moving through. Before I was always like fighting. It's like, no, I cannot be sad. I need to be happy and
All the
blocking
time, toxic positivity,
But now,
bypassing.
okay, there's so many things that touch me. And I have tears like at least once a week. But it's moving through. I allow it. There's some tears and I'm good. I'm not like collapsing into that or suppressing that. It's just, wow, it's moving through me. I feel all the sensation of it moving through. And then,
actually
we can focus on something.
It's quite pleasurable to actually notice all the ranges of emotions.
That's being alive, no?
Yeah, that's being alive. And I remember back in the days when I was in all, only positivity, and I'm gonna be in gratitude all the time. Whenever I would notice some anger, I'm like, okay, what can I be grateful for? It's always like overriding all of that, and thinking that I should always only keep my vibrations high. Don't let my vibrations go low. No, just keeping it high. And after being high for so long, usually what would happen is I would be high, and at some point I would just burst into tears and I would just cry for the whole hour to release it.
Yeah, because there's this accumulation of things that didn't have space. But it didn't go away. It's not because we didn't feel it that it went away.
Yeah, but some people don't even cry. They just suppress it somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's pleasurable to... Now I much more enjoy the full range of emotion to have every day instead of always being happy. It's actually nice.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Even yesterday, we had this funny moment with my partner that we got into an argument about editing or something super silly, and then he did something that I felt angry about, and I kind of wanted to make it jokingly to say something angry, but it turned out so serious that I kind of felt that this anger overtook me, and now we're in a real argument, and now that I'm so identified with this side, it's so hard to overstep it.
Yeah.
And I mean, now it was much easier. I stood there, I saw him, and I'm like, this is so funny. And we just both started laughing, like, this is so funny, we're fighting. Like, what's up? But I remember that previously I would definitely go into this anger, and I'm so identified now. I cannot let go of my stance. You have to be sorry, you're wrong. And not seeing the funniness of the whole situation.
Yeah. And so when we work again with the nervous system, spending more time in this ventral vagal state where we find safety of connection, we can have those emotions there, but without them to overtake us. And we can okay, this is what's coming up, and we can deal with it. So we expand our window of tolerance. I can live more fully all those range and being present with that. And it's safe.
Do you still find that sometimes you get overtaken and you don't notice that you're overtaken?
Yeah, of course, still happen. But now, because I connect so much to the body, usually I feel it already. So if my partner says something that really hurts me, I feel this pinch in my heart. And I notice the tendency. I really notice this part of me that wants to push him away, right, and reject him. And that will be... I notice it, I feel it. So usually I catch it there, and then I can express it if I feel there is a need, or I deal it with myself. So the more I connect to my body, the less I get overtaken. But it's more in my business that actually there I get overtaken.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there is I will go into feeling disappointed, and then I was in that state, and then only later then I catch myself. Oh, I got there. I didn't realize when it happened. I didn't feel the sensation there.
Thank you for pointing out that this can be applied to all areas of my life, because I'm kind of now focusing on relationship because of the attachment
But
theory.
Attachment is in all areas.
But it's everywhere. Yeah. And it's actually so many of people that I look up to, who I see as very beautiful human beings, really aware of themselves. And most of them, what they share is that in relationships it's easy because they really worked through these patterns, but now in the business is when it actually shows up. So
that's my case totally, because I've been working so long on the relationship, but I've been an entrepreneur only for 2.5 years. So it's it reveals other stuff that we're on, and now I'm okay, I can use all those tools also there.
totally relate.
And not like checking like
and always noticing what's the story I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
And that story sometimes really brings me feelings. So we've been chatting
a lot.
for over an hour.
Wow.
And it doesn't feel at all. And those are the conversations that I really love and appreciate. And to finish off, I always ask my guests one question, and that is, what is vitality for you?
Vitality, that's where I can, so if I talk about the nervous system, it's when I can be really in this ventral vagus state and allowing my aliveness, the essence of who I am, to move through. So I'm not in this defense mechanism and all this. I'm in my essence. I can feel fully, I can love fully, I can live fully and enjoy all this life.
That's very aligned to what I feel, and that's why I wanted to call the show Vitality Hub, because this is a hub to get the tools to experience all of the joy for life. Thank you for listening to the end. It shows you really care about your well-being. And if you're enjoying the show, then rating, subscribing, and sharing with a friend would really help the show to grow. And since I'm not a big fan of mindless consumption of information, I really want to encourage you to solidify your learning by writing down key takeaways from this episode and sharing either on social media or with your friends. And lastly, I love connecting with you guys, so please come say hi to me on Instagram at Milena Kundro, and if you're interested in working one-on-one with me, exploring all parts of yourself, then feel free to reach out to me to see if I have any spots available. Until next time!